Welcome back for some Baldur's Gate 3 news / discussion. So yesterday, Larian Studios released a community update as well as a brief Q&A, so there's a lot to talk about. The first half of this video will be focused on the dialogue, cinematics, and multiplayer, and the second half will talk about information from the Q&A, where questions were asked such as, what is the release time? Before we get started, I want to say thank you to some recent patrons, C. Davis and Sullivan Suradeth, as well as Cathrock for becoming a YouTube channel member. Thank you guys so much. If you guys end up enjoying this video, please subscribe for much more Baldur's Gate 3 content on the way. I think this is my 77th Baldur's Gate 3 video up to this point, so I'm sure you missed something. Links to my Twitter and my Discord server will be below. Let's get right into it. When you engage in dialogue in Baldur's Gate 3, which will be quite often, it's not just a little pop-up text box, it's a full cinematic experience. Larian has given us a more close-up personal perspective when in conversation, as opposed to the more isometric view like we saw in the Divinity games. This will really help with game immersion, making you feel much more personally involved in dialogue. Being able to actually see and identify facial expressions and even body language is going to add a lot to the game. Like I've been saying for a while, Baldur's Gate 3 is a massive project, and this is yet another feature that shows us the truth behind that statement. Most games of this genre, when you engage in dialogue, your game screen typically stays back, and a dialogue pops up as a little box with an illustrated face of the person that you're talking to. There's really nothing wrong with that, and it's worked great over the years. However, Larian has decided that great is apparently not great enough, and they're going to offer us a complete cinematic cutscene dialogue experience, and this is huge. Each dialogue you participate in has its own cutscene, and let's not forget how many permutations there are in this game. So if you choose one dialogue option over another, in many cases there will be a completely different cutscene to go with your choice. How the hell you even manage to pull that off in a game where in early access for Act 1, there will be over 45,000 dialogue options to start. Now of course that doesn't mean there are over 45,000 separate cinematics, but it does mean that there's a lot. We can say thank you to Jason Latino, Larian's cinematic director, and his crew for pulling off this amazing feat. So what about these cinematic dialogues when you're playing multiplayer? And yes, multiplayer will be ready and available right away at the start of EA with a max party size of 4. In most games of the past, and probably many of the future, when playing multiplayer, all players typically receive the same cutscene, especially when it's a dialogue type scene. Larian, however, once again is seeking to defy this normalcy and make it more personal and unique to each player individually. One player can engage in dialogue while other party members do whatever the hell they want to do. For example, you might be walking around in the game and notice one of your friends already engaged in conversation, and that does in fact mean that they are in a cutscene. You don't necessarily have to be a part of it. Feel free to walk up behind them and attempt a pickpocket. Yes, this really can be done. Jason also brought up an example of a player playing as Astarion, the vampire spawn, and when at the player's camp, Astarion is looking to feed. When this happens, he is presented with a dialogue, and a choice has to be made. Some of his choices will include being able to feed on the very party members that you're playing with. The funny thing here though is that in this situation, your other party members will in fact see this dialogue, and although they cannot control it, there will be a voting mechanic, a way for each party member to chip in their 2 cents on whom they think this player should feed on. This is very interactive, and it's really going to create some fun, memorable moments when playing with friends. In my last video, I briefly talked about streamer integration. Well, we actually got to see a quick clip of it in action, which is why I'm going to talk about it again. So as a streamer, your audience will be able to vote on your dialogue options if you decide to let them, basically allowing viewers to play a part in your journey. As a viewer, you can make a streamer do some really stupid stuff, which could provide for some extra entertainment. In the quick clip that we watched, it appeared to be the streamer's perspective, and he or she clicked on this little audience vote mechanic button, which when clicked on gives control of your dialogue options to your audience, where they will then vote within a limited amount of time. So up popped a vote for your dialogue option box, and it appears that the streamer gets to cast a vote as well. as the voting is going on, everyone can watch the results as they form. And I'm assuming that when the time runs out, the most popular dialogue option will be chosen, and that the streamer cannot choose differently, but who knows. So this will be a Twitch integration as well as a Google Stadia feature. Unless I'm reading it wrong, I think that as a YouTube streamer like myself, I'll have to play on Stadia if I want to stream using this crowd play feature. So I will in fact be playing Baldur's Gate 3 on both PC and Google Stadia, which is good for then I can give reviews for both. I actually have a feeling that Stadia will offer a solid alternative for you console players that want to play early access but can't. So look out for the honest Stadia review I will be doing, and I promise you I will be honest. Before we get into the Q&A, I thought I'd bring up a race known as the Gnome. Considering that gnomes are in the player's handbook, I think many of us assumed that they would be in the official launch of the game, but there still was definitely some uncertainty. Well, we can now thank Jason for possibly accidentally leaking Gnome as a playable race. You gotta love it.
We want you, if you're playing a gnome,
So yeah, the dialogue scenes and the multiplayer aspects to it are very interesting. There's a lot going on here, and it's actually really hard to wrap my head around understanding that all of this has been implemented for us to try in early access. It's pretty amazing. Now keep in mind that these features are also experimental in many ways, and as we play early access and give feedback, Larian's going to add more, probably change some, and maybe even get rid of some as well. Okay, on to the second half of the video where we talk about news from the Q&A. At the launch of early access, there will be no game difficulty choices to make. They will either be added later in early access or perhaps on the official launch. For each difficulty level that is put into the game, Larian said they have many unique features planned apart from the generic enemies with higher HP and damage. So yeah, even more replayability than we had already expected out of this game. So how about our release time? If everything goes as planned and early access is able to launch on September 30th, the planned release time is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. if you're from England, 12 a.m. on the following day for Thailand, 3 a.m. on the following day for Sydney, Australia, and you're damn straight I'm never going to leave out New Zealand, which will be a 5 a.m. release date on October 1st. As always, I could have gotten some of those times wrong. As far as available languages for early access, the game can be played in English, simplified Chinese, French, German, Polish, Russian, and Spanish. And on the official release of the game, Brazilian, Portuguese, and Italian will also be added. As far as transferring your early access character to the official launch of the game, don't count on it. As early access goes on, there will be many patches and some of them will wipe saves. However, Larian is planning on letting us know ahead of time before these wipes occur, so maybe we can be prepared or hurry the hell up with what we were doing. Unfortunately, I feel like I have to say this again due to comments I have been getting in previous videos. If you're looking for a polished, ready-to-go game, don't play early access. It's not that hard to just not buy it. So stop complaining about how early access doesn't have this and that and your game is going to be wiped, etc. This is not the damn launch of the game. This is for people who want to test it and provide feedback and play a part in the development of the game. Development. Now I'm pissed.
Say it. You think I'm a monster?
For this next question and answer, I'm just going to quote the entire thing, for it is pretty interesting and I can't find a way to shorten it down. About how fast can you make an entire campaign now that you have the game engine made? I'm thinking it'd be absolutely amazing if you could make a few popular 5e D&D campaigns using the Baldur's Gate 3 engine now that you have everything working. And Larian's response was, "This is a very interesting question. Indeed, since launch, a lot of our time has been put into creating tools and pipelines, including entire new departments, needed to create a game much more ambitious than our previous games. All we can say at this point is that our pipelines are very much up and running, and we're seeing the fruits of all that labor. Now that everything is plugged together, we're able to work quite quickly when it comes to content, though many departments are involved and many things are plugged into each other. However, it takes a long time to make a very big game with so many permutations." That was pretty interesting and a great question. For those of you who like GOG instead of Steam or GOG.com or whatever the hell you call it, Larian said that they are working on making it available there as well. No guarantee here, but it seems likely at some point. How about ultra-wide support? Larian has said that they are taking it into account for cinematic dialogue, so be on the lookout in the future. There were a couple more questions answered, but they're kind of repeat questions from before, so I saved them for last in case any of you guys want to get the hell out of here. Lone Wolf mode is planned but won't be in the game at the beginning of early access, so sounds like it will actually be in early access at some point, so that's kind of some new news right there. And finally, modding. Like I said before, it will be supported when the game launches, but don't expect it in early access at all as of right now. Early access will be a time where Larian focuses on feedback and creating the best base game that they possibly can. And that's it for today's video. Always happy to bring you guys some Baldur's Gate 3 news. Be on the lookout this weekend for a video that's a little different than what I normally do, but I think you guys will enjoy it. If you enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's a huge help to my videos. I do all sorts of content on this channel, ranging from comedy videos to live streams to game reviews to game tutorials and much more. I'd love to have some of you guys back for a future video. Until next time.